A very good morning to you. Welcome to Your World. I was just getting acquainted with Dr. Daniel Katambo, who is the founder and CEO of Afya Code Limited. And this morning we'll be discussing myths and facts about fruits and weight loss. Interesting that, but before we get into that, children all around Kenya rely on water from unsafe sources. Colgate is asking you to help change this. Just a little water can make a big difference. For every pack of Colgate you buy exclusively at Naivas, you help build 30 water wells that will provide clean water for 120,000 Kenyans, giving a helping hand. Shop at your nearest Naivas store or online at naivas.co.ke for more information about the campaign. Go to Colgate Kenya's Facebook page or wellboring/colgate.com. Terms and conditions apply. So first of all, what is Afya Code?
Afya Code is an organization that was formed 2 years ago regarding demystifying some of these myths that we talk about, and especially with weight loss. As you've known, there is an upsurge on people living with obesity, diabetes, hypertension, and cholesterol issues. So I worked a little bit outside the country, and when I came back in the country some few years ago, I realized we did not have a really well set information center. So I formed Afya Code as a website to be giving Kenyans information regarding foods, and especially local foods. Yes.
Okay, so it's a website where people can get this information.
It's also a company that deals with diabetes, hypertension, obesity issues. There's also an online shop where you can go and purchase the necessary necessities, especially when you look at management of diabetes. We have gadgets that we use for management of such, and therefore it's a whole company that deals with that, and especially so in giving the right information. Yes.
Do you still see patients?
Yes, I see patients. I have a clinic that is set up in Upper Hill, Fortis, room 303, and we have set up a clinic there that is called the Clinic Reverser. It is actually a clinic that is aimed as type 2 diabetes reversal or remission, because in the last few years now we know that type 2 diabetes can actually be put into remission, and therefore I have a clinic that's actually the first clinic in Kenya to solely focus on type 2 diabetes remission, and not to use necessarily drugs in management of diabetes, but especially in elimination of drugs, or not using drugs in management of type 2 diabetes.
So type 2 diabetes is which one?
Okay, yeah. So diabetes is actually a condition that it's a condition of many causes. So the word diabetes means elevated sugars. The way we classify diabetes is, or the elevation of sugars can be from many other factors. One of the factors is type 1 diabetes. Now, when we call them type 1 diabetes, it means that you do not have insulin. Now, let me just take you back a little bit on what causes your sugars to go up. Now, when you consume food, as we will probably talk about, most foods are converted, or when you have sugar in your body, you need insulin to be able to use it as energy, or even store it as fats, and therefore the sugar levels now go down. So when you eat, the sugar level go up, your pancreas detects the same, it produces insulin, and therefore the insulin now helps you to use that sugar as either energy, where we are able to talk with you, we are able to run and do several other things, and the excess sugar is now stored in our bodies as fat. Therefore, when you look at that combination, now when you look at the process can now can have issues in between. So you can have sugar, and then now you lack insulin completely. So the sugar keeps going up because you lack insulin. That is type 1 diabetes. and that one doesn't have any other treatment. The only treatment is probably a lifestyle change where you lower your sugar intake, and we have to give you insulin. It's mandatory that you receive insulin. While in type 2 diabetes, which is the commonest, it makes about 90 to 95% of the whole of all the condition of type 2 diabetes, is a condition that arises due to chronic, it's a chronic a condition that arises from the fact that when the sugar levels are rising every day, your insulin is, your pancreas is forced to produce more and more and more and more insulin, and in a state where we have hyperinsulinemia. But the insulin that you're producing, it gets to a point whereby it is not adequate and it's not working properly, and this is called insulin resistance. So in type 2 diabetes, you have the insulin, but the insulin is not working properly, and therefore sugar levels goes up. And this is associated more so, especially in now adult life, where anyone who is more than, we're even seeing it actually in kids as low as 9 years, 12 years, 18 years, 22 years.
Is this because of diet?
Yes, lifestyle has really changed in between. And then now we have, as a whole, just to complete that, we have diabetes that can be as a result of use of drugs, can be diabetes as a result of trauma or injury to the pancreas, can have diabetes as a result of pregnancy. So we have so many other causes of the word diabetes. But the most common one is definitely type 2 diabetes, then type 1 diabetes, then gestational diabetes, and the rest now follow.
Okay, so what you're working on is a holistic approach to...
Yes, it's an holistic approach, and especially with type 2 diabetes, because it tends to combine it with many other conditions. For example, before you get to a point of type 2 diabetes, as I said, is associated with weight. How does that come about? When the sugar levels are up, the insulin, as I talked about, tends to convert the excess sugar, and I'm very specific with this word, the excess sugar, into weight. And that weight starts from within, inside. So it starts from the liver, the pancreas, the visceral organs. So by the time you are seeing yourself gaining weight, by the time you are seeing yourself with kitambi, you're saying you're well and old, and you are actually, maybe in a happy position, you're driving a good car. At that point, it's a process that has already started. So it is holistic. We try and much as possible to look at it from an holistic point of view. Therefore, we do not want these guys who are not in the pool of diabetes to get there. So we make sure that we try and give the correct advice in making sure that we don't get many people getting overweight, obesity, type 1, type 2, and going to those classes. And if we get you with type 2 diabetes, then we are able to help you, to give you information that will really help you in eliminating drugs, or even completely being off the drugs as much as you can. Yes. So,
because then if you tell me that I can reverse type 2 diabetes through my diet, there are those who will not take medicine. They will say, wacha niende nje ingine. What do you say to those people? Is it a case of you still need your drugs to what's the word? To I don't want to say contain, but you get what I mean. Yes. Your condition to manage. Thank you, to manage your condition. And then we wean you off. Is it that type of situation?
Yeah, so traditionally, just to give you a background, we've known diabetes as a condition for many years. Of course, type 2 diabetes has been studied for many years, but I'm sure you've often heard your friends, your relatives say, once you have diabetes, you will always take medications. I'm sure you've heard of the phrase. But in the last 10 years or so, 10 to 15 years, lots of studies have shown that type 2 diabetes, specifically type 2 diabetes, can actually be put into remission. That means you are actually you can get type 2 diabetes, and you possibly will not have to take any drugs if you change your lifestyle completely, according to how your physician will advise you, and especially what we do in our clinic. But initially, we used to say type 2 diabetes, once you have it, then you take tablets for the rest of your life. But
so
that is not the
these
case.
tablets would address that insulin resistance?
Yes. So we have many different types of tablets that addresses the problem of insulin resistance, or maybe going to your pancreas and squeezing it and making sure that you produce more insulin, or even giving you extra insulin, because remember what I said, you have insulin, but the insulin is not working properly. So what do we want to do in this case? We can supplement the insulin from external factor, but we are not treating the problem. You understand what I mean? So you have insulin in your body, but it's not working properly. But because it's not working properly, we can also supplement it and give you the one that is working properly, so that now you manage your sugars nicely. But in our approach, and in the last 10 to 15 years, as I keep saying, we now know that if you actually manage your lifestyle properly, then you do not need, for some people, you might not need drugs. For some others, you might need only 1 or 2 drugs. And you actually live a very nice lifestyle. You are able to sleep well, you're able to manage your daily activities properly, you lose a lot of weight, and you are actually, your energy levels in generally really change.
Is it not playing Russian roulette? Because I've heard that, you know, with diabetes, if you don't manage it correctly, you risk losing your eyesight, you risk even losing a limb.
Yeah.
And even wound healing is impacted.
Yes. So yeah, so when you look at it from a point of view where you have had these levels of sugars chronically or for a long time being elevated and not being controlled properly, remember your body works at a certain level of sugars. For example, we all need sugars, and we usually say you need a number like 4 to 7. That is the normal sugar levels, all right? That's about the normal levels that
so this is the thing they test when they prick you, and
yes.
they, okay.
Yes, so when you come to the office, we prick and then we look at the sugars. So if you're living with either type 1 or type 2, we expect your numbers to be around 4 to 7, all right? But if you have type 2 diabetes, that is, any form of diabetes that is not well controlled, then your numbers now are either 8, 9, 10, some people even go to 18, 20. Remember, your body is not conditioned to work under very high sugar levels. So the sugar goes to your eyes and damages your eyes. That's why it is important to have your eyes checked. The same sugar goes to your kidneys and starts to damage your kidneys. The same sugar goes to your, your heart. Of course, it's not as simple as I'm saying it, but then it goes to the heart and causes heart attack. It goes to your coronary arteries and causes strokes. It goes to your legs and blocks the vessels there and can cause peripheral vascular disease or amputation. Now, when your leg, your vessels are like a pipe, right? And if the pipe is blocked, right? If it's blocked from here onwards, it means blood supply onwards to your leg is not as good. So if you get a wound on that leg, what happens? The nutrient supply and the rest of the stuff that you need for wound healing is impaired. And remember, also, as this is also happening, you're also having nerve damage. So it means that if you step on a needle like this, you will not feel, right? And that creates the wound. That's how the wound comes about. So the nerve has been damaged. So you have now a wound that you can't feel. And 2, the nutrient supply to that leg is also affected. So what happens? So now you have a wound and it does not have the good supply for healing. And that creates a wound that cannot heal. And that is really, unfortunately, if it's not well controlled and watched early, we have to amputate or cut off that piece of that part of the leg. Okay.
So tell us about now this holistic approach to controlling, to managing type 2 diabetes.
So in 2011, there's a guy called Professor Roy Taylor in Newcastle University. He took 11 guys and he's actually not a guy, he's a professor, a prominent professor right now. He did an experiment, sort of, in what he called a direct sort of study. And he put 11 people onto a very low calorie diet. Now you have to mind my language. Calorie diet.
You're fine, you're
fine. Because there is what we call very low carbohydrate diet, there is low carbohydrate diet, so we'll probably go into it. But then he used the very low calorie diet. And what he did, he wanted to mimic, I'm sure you've had people go for weight loss surgeries, right? You've had people go for, especially weight loss surgeries. They have been with us for a very long time. We have known that if you go for surgery, weight loss surgery, bariatric surgery, then you are able to stop using drugs for diabetes, hypertension, even within 3-4 weeks. But then you haven't lost all the weight. You still, if you went for the surgery and you are 170 kilos or 160 kilos or 120 kilos, whichever number that you had, by the time you finish the surgery, you have post 2 weeks, we have already stopped all the diabetic drugs. So then it explained to him that, how about if I mimic those conditions without the surgery? So out of the 11 people he did, in 3 months' time, everybody had lost like more than 15 kilos. Everybody had the fat around the liver that I was talking about and the pancreas had also diminished, and everybody was in remission. No one was taking medications. So he proved to us that this condition can actually be put into remission. And therefore, because the low calorie diet is strict, you have to go to the clinic every week to pick some foods that are really designed for that. Now we have had what we call therapeutic carbohydrate restriction, where now we are looking at the level of sugars that you are consuming every day. And that can range from very, very low carbohydrate diet, what people call ketogenic diet, or the low carbohydrate diet, or you can do intermittent fasting and many other forms that people can adapt. So that is some of the therapies that we look at in terms of management of patients with type 2 diabetes. And that really can be helpful. And it's a spectrum of many things. And not only does it help with such condition for diabetes, it is also very effective for polycystic ovarian syndrome. It's also very effective for polycystic kidney disease and fatty liver. Yes.
You've made a deliberate distinction between low calorie and low carbohydrate. Why?
Yes, because many a times you've had people say, I'm sure you have had friends or relatives who tell you, I want to lose weight, right? What comes into their mind the first thing?
Cut out cakes, chapati, you know, mandazi.
Why do they want to do so? The next thing they tell you, I'm taking a lot of calories, right? Yeah, I went to the gym, I burned 200 calories. I burned 100 calories. I burned 400 calories. But if you look at it critically, really the calories matter. I'm not saying they don't matter, but where they come from is the most important message that we need to pass out, to people. Because look at it this way. If you eat, for example, if you eat a banana or you eat, let me just say meat, you consume stew meat, all right? And both have the meat and ugali. Let me use ugali, the common one. Ugali and meat, and both of them have 2,000 calories, all right? Which one will make you gain weight? It's actually the ugali. Why? Because the ugali will be converted. I thought it was a trick question. No. No, it's the ugali. Why? Because the ugali is the one that is converted to sugar. And the sugar is the one that triggers the pancreas to produce what? To produce insulin. And that insulin is what will be stored in your body as fat. But now let's look at the nyama or stew or the vegetables that you consumed. They still have the same energy, remember. The ugali had 2,000 and the nyama or the vegetables still have the same amount of calories. But the nyama you eat or the vegetables that you eat that have the same amount of calories will not spike your insulin, and hence they will not make you gain weight. And hence it's very important that we pass that information so that when people, I see so many patients in my clinic who come and tell me, I've been burning 400 calories. I go to the gym, I burn a lot of calories. Remember, Professor...
So you're saying it matters where these calories come from?
Yes, it does matter where the calories come from. Actually, it is really important. that you know where your calories are coming from. Now, Professor Roy Taylor looked at the food that I've just described. Let's say you have nyama choma, you have nyama stew, or you have vegetables and all this. So now you have the energy, the energy. We all need around 2,000 or to 3,000. For ladies, about 2,000. For men, it's about 2,500. So let's say 2,000 to
calories.
Yes, calories per day.
Per day.
Now, if you generally reduce your calorie, now everything, to about 600, that's a very low calorie diet. Definitely, now you've depreciated yourself all the calories, right? In this case, you will lose weight, but at some point, we will need to supplement you back to 2,000. You understand what I mean? So that's really important when you are choosing that method of weight loss. But when you look at now therapeutic carbohydrate restriction, you're not restricting calories. So you do not need the carbohydrates. You eliminate those things that you actually do not need to be in your body that are making you gain weight. And therefore, when you restrict that, then therefore you are able to actually lose weight without restricting their calories as much.
Calorie intake.
Yes.
All right. So we continue this conversation on the other side of the break. But Kenya, what if we told you that your smile can help those next to you? Colgate is helping to provide clean drinking water so that children can have a bright future by staying in school. For every pack of Colgate that you buy at your nearest Naivas store over the next 2 months, you're helping to build 30 water wells that will provide clean water for 120,000 people. Now, that's something to smile about. Visit the Colgate Kenya Facebook page or visit the website on wellboring/colgate.com for more information. Terms and conditions apply. When a child has to help their family fetch water, there is, I do beg your pardon for that, but essentially we're asking you this morning that there's no such thing as a day off. You can help change that. Colgate is asking all of you to help support the future of our country, our children. Just like clean water, every little drop makes a difference. For every pack of Colgate you buy at your nearest Naivas store, you're helping to build 30 water wells that will provide clean water to 120,000 Kenyans. You can make a larger impact and help reach more Kenyans by donating via M-Pesa. Visit the Colgate Kenya Facebook page or wellboring/colgate.com and visit the website for more information. Terms and conditions apply. All right, so the fruits I'm seeing behind you are making me salivate. And I will tell you, I love pineapple. I can see pineapple there behind you. Kuna mango, kuna orange, kuna fruits. And I mentioned this because when we were on break, Daktari here was telling me that if I go to the gym and then afterwards I'm like, let me now eat healthy and take a bowl of fruits, that I am doing zero work. What do you mean?
So there's a common myth that fruits are healthy, and of course, yes. I'm not here to say that fruits are not healthy. Fruits are not healthy, but they are. But the quantity and manner in which you consume your fruits really is important. Depends on what we call individualization in therapy. What do you want to achieve in when you're going to the gym? What do you want to achieve by, eating in a certain way, what we call lifestyle change? So for example, if I'm living with diabetes, all right, and then I consume, or my sugar levels, like I was discussing today, I said the sugars are 4 to 7, right? And then now I decide I check my sugars at this time and they're around maybe 8.5, okay? Now I decide, let me consume bananas. Now, depending on the size of banana that you can consume, for example, you can have a banana ranging from about 6 teaspoons of sugar to about 10 or 11. So if you consume 2 or 3 and you are living with diabetes, what does that mean? Does it mean that your sugar is going to come down? No. If your sugar was 8.5 and you consume 2 to 3 bananas, then I will expect your sugars to go up. So in this case, I will have, as a therapist, I will have to tell you to restrict the amount of bananas that you're consuming. Now, if you look at it now from the perspective of somebody losing weight, remember what we talked about when I introduced, I said, weight is a factor of hormones, all right? And the main hormone that plays about for you to gain weight is insulin. And who triggers insulin to come into your body? That is, I mean, who triggers the production of insulin?
Sugar.
It is sugar. So if you consume a bowl full of fruits, and I can assure you, now assume you are consuming a bowl of 2 bananas. An apple is like 4 teaspoons of sugar, whether it's red or or green, and watermelon, and what else? Pineapple, and something. So if you look at this concoction at the end of the day, you're consuming, let's say, approximately 10 to 16 teaspoons of sugar, right? Now, you are from the gym, you've lowered your sugar levels, and probably your insulin levels are really good, because the muscles now, in terms of insulin resistance, they become very sensitive and they are good, which is a good thing. But then after you rest, you consume 16 teaspoons of sugar from these fruits. So what happens? So you slowly begin again to undo exactly what you've done. And I've actually seen this with patients. I've seen patients, especially ladies, who come to the office and they say, I have been doing HIITs for 30 to 40 minutes. I have been working really hard. I don't miss the gym, but I only lose 3 to 4 kilos. And then now I tell them, okay, let's review your lifestyle, or let's review how you eat. And then I realize all they consume from morning to evening is sugar. And therefore, you cannot outdo the folk. You can never outdo how you eat. You really have to check on how you eat first and then the gym. And sometimes it's even important for you not to go to the gym and just change your lifestyle, and you will lose weight.
Hey, Kanyagia breaks up. Are there not good and bad sugars? Are you saying it is the same thing if I eat this bowl of fruits? It's the same as me eating a bowl of Cocoa Puffs. Cocoa Puffs, yes. Let's say Cocoa Puffs.
Well, again, now when you talk about sugars, we have to break them down. What does the word sugar mean? You know, sugar in scientific language is just sucrose. Now, there are many types of sugars. When you consume, they could be sucrose, fructose, galactose, and all those things. But to your body, all these things are sugar. When you eat them, they tend to spike your insulin levels. But never mind my language, because I'm just simplifying it for understanding. These sugars can be in many different forms. Well, the people will argue this is better, this is not better, but for educational point of view, any form of sugar that you have will spike your insulin levels. Now, if I consume a fruit, I'm likely to get more fructose. All right? If I consume ndoma, I'm likely to get sucrose. You know, so it all ends up to be sugar in one bucket.
But are there not complex and simple sugars and things like that? Sugars that take longer to what's the word, to get into the bloodstream, which I suppose are better for you than the simple sugars, which create now that spike.
Yeah. So, and that's where the science now starts to define the low glycemic index, you know, the high glycemic index and such stuff, glycemic loads. I really don't want to confuse many people with those words, but when you talk about glycemic index, is how fast is this sugar, how fast is this food getting into becoming converted into sugar, or how low does it. But at the end of the day, let me ask you, we just said a banana has about, roughly, depending on the size, 6 to 10 teaspoons of sugar, right? And then we consume a piece of ndoma, that is a complex carbohydrate, right? And that's most of the time we advise our patients who are living with diabetes to consume the same. But that the same thing has about 8 to 10 teaspoons of sugar. So this one spikes your sugar immediately, which is the banana. And this one spikes your sugar maybe slowly, but it will still spike your sugar. So at the end of the day, in as much as our understanding is based on glycemic index and glycemic load and the rest of the words that we use, I think generally speaking, we need to really lower the amount of carbohydrates we as Africans are actually consuming. Because I will tell you, our cultural foods are really rich in carbohydrates, and this is our source of our ideal, probably our lifestyle issues. Because, I don't know whether I can add this, because if you look at the patients who come to the clinic, or people who may be living with overweight or obesity, especially in our African setting, I will ask, how many times have you consumed processed foods? And many are like, no, I consume chips maybe on Sunday. I consume chips maybe on once in a while. But this guy or patient is living with overweight and obesity. Then now I turn into, what do you actually consume in a day? And then I find brown ugali, I find chapos,
what are you
I
saying?
found...
Hey, Dr. What do you mean? Now you're targeting brown ugali.
I find brown chapatis, I find brown, and all those, you know, brown
Are those not
stuff.
good for us though, because
I
of the
didn't say
millet?
they're bad. Honestly, I didn't say they're bad. But the amount, and again, individualization is important. What do you want to achieve? Because you really need to know. For example, I'm in the process of completing a book that I'm actually writing. And it was even shocking to me to realize this brown ugali, which is a mixture of millet, cassava, sorghum, actually has more sugar content than the white. It's quite shocking. And therefore, when now somebody is living with diabetes or overweight, and now they are consuming this brown ugali, they really need to be very careful on the quantity that they take.
I'm lost for words. To be honest, because we've been told these are what are good for us.
Yes.
Because they have fiber.
Yes, they do. You see, if I come here and I told you, another common example is beans. I will use these beans as a common thing that many people are used to. For example, we were told beans have what? Proteins. But what do people, another myth that people think about, that beans are what? Proteins. Beans, in essence, some of them contain a lot of carbohydrates as opposed to the carbohydrates.
As opposed to the protein.
As opposed to the proteins. The teaching was plant-based sources of what? Proteins. Plant-based sources. Now, I've told you, if you don't consume animal protein, then you can take plant-based sources of proteins. But that statement does not disclose to you that that bean also has 70% carbohydrates as opposed to the 30%. So I sold to you the 30%, but I never told you 60 or 70%, which was sugar.
Hold up. These are lifestyle, diabetes is a lifestyle disease.
Yes.
But our forefathers,
Yes.
they ate this ndoma,
Yes.
they ate this ngwashe, they ate this brown ugali, they ate this, what else have we mentioned? Beans.
Yes.
And they were fine.
Yeah.
So,
and I totally agree with you.
So is the problem then not, okay, KFC, I'm not targeting you, but is the problem then not
grilled or whatever it is, marinated?
Yes, is that not the problem?
I don't think it's the main problem, actually, especially in an African setting. If you look at, yes, it's a problem, and especially in the West, it's a big problem. And it's now starting to catch up with us. But if you look at it from a traditional and cultural point of view, as you said, we used to consume those stuff. But what did we used to do then? After you consume ndoma, what do? You get your bag and you walk to your workplace. You walk to the bus station. You ride a bike. Kama wewe ni Muluya, you ride your bike too. And na si ile bike yenye ni motorized. No. Ile inaitwa Black Mamba. Hiyo. You get.
Ama unashika jembe unaenda.
Ama unashika jembe unafanya nini? Ama ukienda Ocha, unafika, you get to your station and you walk to the mountain. All right? Now what has happened in the last about 30 years? Motorization has improved. our lifestyle have improved. If I want to send you money, what do I do now?
M-Pesa.
I M-Pesa you within a second, you have it. But previously, what was I doing? I had to get out of here, go to Western Union, queue, make all the queues finish, and then after that I come out. And when I come out, there is no Uber, there is no Bolt, there is no all this motor. So the lifestyle, the modernization and urbanization has changed everything. And therefore, because we can't change this, we can't say, I'm not going to send you money with M-Pesa. I'm not going to use the mode of transport that is there. I'm not going to do, no, we can't say that. So we have to now reanalyze what we've been eating and look at what is it that we can really change, what our forefathers used to do, and make sure that we lower our sugar intake.
But where does that leave us? You know, because you're saying I'm better off consuming meat, right? But what I'm hearing is moja machoma less ugali. Okay. No, but seriously, you find a lot of us, he's shaking his head, and Jerry's like, no, that's not what I'm saying. But for a lot of people, tunasukumanga wiki. Unaelewa?
Yes.
So hata si chipo ya Sunday. Nyama ni if you're lucky, you know, it's a treat. Mostly unasukuma, unapika ugali kubwa, alafu unasukuma na kasupu ama na kasukuma.
Yeah.
So what are you telling us then?
What I'm saying is this, you see, it's not your fault for us to think like, it's not our fault for us to think like that. I will tell you the genesis of exactly what you have told me right now. How come that the World Health Organization, do you know the food pyramid? There's something called food pyramid or the plate and how you're supposed to eat. Who designed that? And who told us that, where is the scientific evidence to prove that actually that's how you're supposed to eat? Do you know there isn't? Who said that, and again, I'm not attacking water, but where is the evidence that says, let's take 8 glasses of water? Now we are changing this narrative. Take a lot more water than you can. Just take water, plenty of water. Because where is it that we wrote the scientific evidence that was 8? And you find people who are really possessed with the 8. But again, I take 2 or 3 and I'm good. So what am I trying to say? It's that we were, the food industry, our organizations have been into this food game because there was maybe an event that happened, 2 to 3 events that happened, and we did a postmortem on 2 to 3 people. I'm talking about now studies that led into this, and said, by the way, it looks like when people have heart attack, they are having cholesterol and they are having issues with fat and all this. So let's eliminate the fat, let's take more carbohydrates, and let's take less proteins. But the truth of the matter is, if you look at the healthy fats, did you know healthy fat like nyama na mafuta or lard or olive oil or the macadamia or any healthy fat that you will be talking about, ama kuku na ngozi yake, let me be very specific in this case, that will not even spike your sugar at all and will not make you gain weight.
But would it clog my arteries?
No, it won't. What will clog your arteries is this ugali that you are taking that will spike your sugars up and you are overweight, right? That is actually what we'll call glycation of your cholesterol molecules, and they become sticky and they stick onto your walls and cause issues. But when you look at how holistically we should eat, that's how we are supposed to lean more into more vegetables, healthy proteins and healthy fats with less and less sugar intake, which will include carbohydrates and the rest of the stuff, and also fruits. Now, in this spectrum that I've talked about, it will really depend on an individual. You can never generalize. Or if you are different, he is different, I am different. So depending on what you want to achieve, then you are able to customize that into what you want to really consume.
Okay, so what does this healthy diet look like? Practically speaking?
I'm just... So healthy diet is practically defined by you. what do you want to achieve? For example, I am now 66 kilos, all right? I used to weigh 74, the highest I've ever been. And then I was like, when I started doing all this in 2016, I realized, oh, I consume unnecessary sugar, I consume all this. And I said, oh, I need to reduce the amount of sugar that I'm taking, take more fats, take healthy fats, of course, and healthy proteins, and more vegetables. That's what I did, all right? And lowered this. And of course, I'm very active. So what happens is now I lost these kilos, and I didn't do anything marvelously out of control. No, out of the ordinary. And you find yourself losing weight and now living. But you find there are people, and I was able to gain my normal BMI, which is 22 to 23. That's where I range, all right? That's me. Now, what do you want to achieve? Do you want to be 18 to 25? There are people who will tell you, no, daktari, mimi sitaki kukonda. Mimi nataka mwili yangu iko penye iko. So you work with that individual. So what do you want to achieve? I am 120. I just want to lose 10 kilos to 110. Or I want to lose to 90. So you work with this individual based on the different methods that we can use, and you achieve exactly what they want to achieve. There is no one size fits all. No. That I will be lying to you. Even
so you're saying I don't need to give up ugali? No,
you don't need to. Yeah. But now, depending on what do you want to achieve? Do you want to lose weight? Yes. Do you want to, or are you living with diabetes? First of all, if you're living with diabetes, that's a condition by in itself might warrant you to reduce your intake of ugali. And that specifically also includes the brown ugali. I must say it. Because I see so many patients who are deep into, traditional foods, which is right. But we really need to send the right message that even the traditional foods can really spike your sugars and you can really land into trouble. Because, just to give you a further example, ugali, a fist size, all right, is approximately maybe 140 grams, right, or 100 to 140 grams. That will give you about 10 teaspoons of sugar when you consume. So if I'm living with diabetes, what do? I wake up, or in the evening, I come from work and I am, feeling nice. I check my sugars, it's 6.5. Very good control. And then now I decide to eat 2 feet of ugali. How much sugar have I consumed? 20. Do I expect my numbers to go below, or do I expect my numbers to go up? So I consume this about approximately that number, and then what do I rush for? Insulin. What do I rush for? Drugs. What do I rush for? Running or doing something. I mean, the simplest thing for you to have done was to either decide my sugar is 6.5, I'll just consume either a quarter of a fist, a half of a fist. You understand what I mean? And therefore my sugar will spike from 6.6 to maybe 8, or 6.6 to 7.5, as opposed to eating 2 of them and then dashing for medications. Do you get the concept? So once you understand the concept, and an individual living with this understands the concept, then it becomes easier for you to manage your condition. Now, that said, it means then the people who are living without diabetes, healthy people who call themselves healthy, remember, in Kenya, we're having a pool of patients who are living with diabetes. They are the minority. But now, according to the Kenya Demographic Health Survey, we know we have 39% of ladies living with what? Either overweight or obesity. Yes. Men is about 20 to 25, right? These people are actually looking at this and just adding, every day we are adding 1 or 2, we are adding, right? So we need to talk to these people for prevention purposes so that they don't join the pool. So we take care of the ones that are already living with diabetes. But the majority of the message needs to actually go to those people who are not living with diabetes, so that we don't gain weight too much or get overweight, and therefore we again go into diabetes, hypertension, obesity issues. Okay.
I know you are avoiding this, and you have avoided it despite my insistence. Tell us what to eat then.
I'm not avoiding. trying to give the logic. For example, let's take for lack of an example. Let's look at it in the morning. What do you want to consume in the morning? For example, you wake up in the morning, make your 2 eggs with vegetables, take your coffee or tea and go to work. All right? Now, the most important thing that we need also to remember is that snacking is the #1 cause of obesity and overweight in the world, not just in Kenya. So you need to be aware that the meal you consume in the morning should be able, and you should trust your meal to get you to lunchtime. And you should also trust your meal to get you to dinner. All right? So avoid snacking at all costs, because when you look at snacks, what are they? Biscuits, cakes, mandazi, mahamri, or a bowl full of something. That's exactly what we want to consume. Come lunchtime, what do you want to eat? Go to wherever place you want to go. You have vegetable salads, streaks of chicken, streaks of pork, streaks of whatever you want. Weka maybe butter, put some olive oil on top, and you're good.
Lakini daktari, you are you eating lunch? You're eating lunch at 5-star. Isn't it 5-star hotel lunch?
Oh, let me ask you.
Penye kuna ugali
Thank you. Yes. Let me ask you. In fact, very good you've mentioned it. When you go to a kibandaski, right?
Now we are talking.
Exactly. When you go to a kibandaski, what will they, when you ask for the menu, they will tell you, we don't have the menu, I'm the menu. So the waiter tells you it's the menu.
No scanning of QR codes.
No scanning of QR, because she's standing as the menu. So what do? She tells you, I have the following. Niko na managu, niko na skuma, niko na ugali, niko na chapati ya brown, niko na ugali ya brown, niko na what else do they tell you? Matumbo, niko na what am I missed? Starch maybe, ugali, chapati I said, the commonest are what? Those ones, right?
Yeah, my director is telling me chapati madondo.
Yes, chapati madondo, right? Those options are put in front of you. So based on what we've talked about, do you have something to eat? And the answer is yes. Amekwambia akona nyama stew, akona skuma. What is hard in eating the skuma? The problem is we are so used to eating this skuma is so small, eh?
Your soup ni maji technically.
Exactly. Now that is not.
And I need that food to last me until so meniambia inipeleke iniskume hadi sapa.
Yes. But you see, the problem is, it's because the way we've designed, we were told, nyama si kitu mzuri, and then because we want affluence, even our kibandaski give us the smallest amount of sukuma wiki, and we tend to accept it. I go into kibandaski, by the way, and what you need to do is just tell them, give me double sukuma wiki, and nyama stew, and a very small piece of ugali. And there you go. Yes.
Oh, okay. We'll continue this conversation with Daktari another day. Unfortunately, we do have to bring the conversation to a close, but thank you for that. It was interesting. I've enjoyed it thoroughly. But children all around Kenya rely on water from unsafe sources. Colgate is asking you to help change this. Just a little water can make a big difference. For every pack of Colgate you buy exclusively at Naivas, you help build 30 water wells that will provide clean water for 120,000 Kenyans. Give a helping hand. Shop at your nearest Naivas store or online at naivas.co.ke. For more information about the campaign, go to the Colgate Kenya Facebook page or Wellboring, that is well, WELLBORING/Colgate.com. Terms and conditions apply. And allow me to thank Dr. Daniel here for being with us this morning. And Dr. Daniel Katambo, he is a founder and CEO, Afya Code Limited.
Yes.
Daktari, has been interesting. Takufuata Facebook. You can check out the website as well.
Yes, please.
All right. So thank you for being here this morning. We were dealing with myths and facts around fruits, but we've really looked at the whole food pyramid, so to speak. Good morning.